Hi, I'm Dr. Jeff Patterson, and I've been asked by the folks at Subiendo to do a brief presentation about effective communication skills. The presentation takes about 10 to 12 minutes, and we're going to use some slide decks to kind of keep us on task as we go forward. So let's get started. Improving your communication skills is a really essential task. Time and again, we're told by the admissions officers of colleges and universities and hiring professionals in the job market that having a good set of communication skills is a key component of getting successful leadership and the hiring and decision making for their organizations. The one thing that we have to keep in mind is don't be nervous. Whether you're addressing a lecture hall or having a one-on-one conversation or maybe even doing an online video stream, you have to rely on a set of basic skills to communicate clearly and effectively. Effective communication is a critical leadership skill, but it just takes practice. First and foremost, anytime you do a presentation, you need to know your subject matter and you need to do your research. This is really going to help you relax and make it easier for you to communicate your ideas to others in your audience. Ask yourself three really basic questions. What is it that you want to say? What do you want the person or the audience to do as an outcome of your presentation? And who is it that you're talking to? What do they want? What do they need to know from you in your presentation? Certainly practicing and memorizing facts, figures, catchphrases, stories, and asks what you want them to do at the end of the presentation, what you need for them to do, are all critical parts of the presentation preparation. What we usually find that helps is that you're able to tell a story, or what we say your message. Whether it's you're going to be having a personal conversation with a small group or you're talking to a large group of people, figure out how to frame your message so that it's interesting. What makes your story interesting? Why should people care about it? Is what you're trying to tell them clear? Sometimes taking an anecdotal story and communicating that to them as an example of in your presentation is an extremely effective tool. We call these analogies. These are really rhetorical tools that show comparisons and make solid arguments that instantaneously can help people understand. For example, an analogy would be for me to say that just as a sword is a weapon of a warrior, the word is a weapon of an orator. See, everyone should be able to envision the idea that you're putting forward if you're able to use an analogy or a story to shape what your message is going to be. Also, almost as important is to repeat your key points through repetition and then say them again. Certainly being clear and concise in what you want to say, and then having 3 to 4 points that you want to make is essential to having a good communication. But you need to repeat those phrases and ideas and points for emphasis so that no part of your argument is completely lost. We call this an information strategy. Sometimes when I'm giving a presentation, I'll be asking people within the audience whether what I'm saying makes sense, or does anyone have a question, or have I described this well, or does anyone have an example that they can provide? That kind of communication, working with the audience and making sure that your message is getting across and you underscore that message is an essential part of the communication strategy. We're also important to put your audience at ease. If you're relaxed, they'll be relaxed. Smile, make eye contact. It helps the audience connect with you and your subject matter. It also reduces your nervousness. Remember, you're talking to a group of individuals, not to a mass of strangers, and you want them to understand what you're saying, and you want to do it in a way that you're making a connection with them. Probably the best in recent memory who's been able to do this is President Obama. If you remember, he used to intersperse his speeches with lots of common expressions like, he would call people folks. He'd start off with, here's the deal. And he paced himself with appropriate pauses. With those pauses, he was able to let people think about what it was he was saying before he moved on to the next topic. In that sense, in that slow cadence, that easygoing cadence, and sometimes with humor, audiences were put at ease, they were calm, and they were able to understand the common phrasing. So most importantly, make sure that you're talking to your audience at where they're at. And probably it doesn't hurt to keep a sense of humor. Something goes wrong, the PowerPoint messes up, you get lost within your notes for your speech, that's all okay. Just make a self-deprecating joke and move on. Audiences and people that you're communicating with want to see you succeed. So you need to let them help you and let them see that happen. Almost as important is actively listening to your audience. Part of great communication is being an active listener. By listening, you respect the persons that you're speaking to, and you're able to hear and understand their points of view, and that helps you to articulate your position and provide them with a meaningful response. Now, we usually call this in the literature emotional intelligence. That means that you're attuned to what your audience wants, how they're reacting to what you're saying, and making adjustments. This requires that you listen as well as speak, and you understand your audience or the other person's needs, their wishes, their values, and that you do your best to try to align what your messaging is with those needs, wishes, and values. Most importantly, in that sense, you need to be present. You have to speak with your own voice. When I say that you're being present, it means that you're providing them a sense that you're hearing them, you're understanding your audience, and that you're not subconsciously trying to get off the stage as quickly as possible. And sometimes this means turning off the PowerPoint, eliminating distractions, putting everything else out of your mind, and being able to focus on making that connection with the audience, giving them your complete attention. This means being professional, but not stiff. You want to come across as if you're real. People respect authenticity, and they're willing to follow those who believe what they are saying. Speak with your own voice. Don't try to imitate somebody else. Don't try to put words out that you're not really sure about, or phrases, or make arguments that you're not sure about. Focus on what it is that you're saying and what you want to get across in your own words and your own authenticity. Also as important is responding to questions in a timely manner. In most of my presentations, I'll spend maybe half to 3/4 of the time talking, and then I'll spend the rest of the time listening. I want to talk to the audience. I want to hear from them. I want them to ask me questions and engage in a dialogue. Now, there are some people that think they have the answers to everything. I'm not one of those people, and I'm sure probably you're not either. So I try to be responsive to everyone, even if I don't have an answer. If I don't have an answer, I'll tell them I don't have an answer to that. But I can promise them that I will get them an answer, and I'll get back to them as quickly as I can, either individually or as in a group. You want to be able to develop a reputation as a communicator who responds quickly, listens, and is likely to be rewarded by showing an appreciation for your audience, and in return, they'll show an appreciation for you. Lastly, always be ready to adapt to any situation. If you've played football or you know football, it's called calling an audible sometimes. It means you have to have a clear picture of what you want to say and a presentation that you presented and prepared, but some audiences may present different perspectives, and you have to adapt to that situation, especially if some of the response that you get from the audience is counter to your message. Try to maintain the control of the conversation. Find common ground, even if it's an argument, and don't make assumptions or misinterpret what they might be thinking or saying. Ask them. Especially in complex scenarios or potential disagreement, you want to make sure that when you're getting perspective from the audience, that you're responding to that perspective and trying to find ways in which you're going to resolve any kind of conflict, but also come back and reinforce your message as part of your presentation. Perspective taking, confirmation, all lead to better, more direct communication with your audience. Well, I hope this has been some help to you. And I think that all of you, if you're in Subiendo, You certainly have developed some of these skills already, but always keep them in mind when you sit down to start your presentation or just before you step out onto the stage or into a meeting room to have that conversation. Stay calm, know your facts and figures, keep your comments clear and concise, and always listen to the audience and respond. Think of it more as a dialogue than as a one-way presentation. Thanks for listening and looking at this presentation, and I hope it's been some help to you. Have a good day.